I'm on with Brian Muka, one of our founding members on the Entrepreneur Experience Virtual Campus. He runs the Invincibility Dojo twice a day and is focused on becoming invincible, releasing yourself from fear, going in the right direction on a daily basis. And his camera's not working again because of Restream. Sorry, Restream, but would you fix this mess? Anyways, we're going to keep going with this because we have audio. But if you're watching this on video, he's here. And what we're going to talk about is connect strategies. So that's stage two, or let's call it, stage two of the More Money Now business development process. And the connect strategies for me go back to when I was really young, where I was trying to figure out, how do I get what I want? So Brian, let's talk about that a little bit. We've talked a lot about connect strategies over the last year. What are your thoughts on it?
I tried for a long time to follow my business coaches, spent a lot of money on that. That was mostly like a social media, LinkedIn outreach content strategy. And it struck me as being really noisy in all of those areas. And I'm just adding to spam. Like, I was doing stuff that I didn't want to read. Like if I was the audience and the stuff that I was told to post, it wasn't aligned. And so I didn't do it. Didn't feel good. And so over time, I realized I have an incredible network. And I really like talking to people on the phone. Like, I like just picking up the phone and allowing whoever comes to mind while I'm outside walking barefoot. And I just reach out and we have a conversation. And sometimes it results in we're going to do something together. Sometimes it results in, hey, I need to make an introduction for you. And sometimes it results in, oh, thanks for the introduction. I've got some people that you need to meet. And especially with my work, it's so intimate that like the traditional marketing stuff doesn't work. It takes a long time, and I'm not willing to do that investment. So learning to trust myself.
And, the connect strategy of networking, connecting, building a network, tapping into other people's networks is something I started back when I was probably 17, or let's say maybe 18, 19 years old. And I liked it. It was a lot of fun. And then I came back to it in my late 20s, 30s, 40s, even as I was building different businesses and doing business development. And now I don't want to do it anymore at all. And I don't take Zoom calls anymore. I don't go to networking events. I don't work my network because I don't want to. So I'm doing exactly the opposite. But what we're doing is the same thing in terms of finding a connect strategy that works for us.
That's it. That's the magic. Let's see. Who was I? I was reading somebody. Oh yeah, it's Stephen Pressfield and the War of Art or Turning Pro. And he's like, do not write to the popularity of your audience, because if you do that, you're going to hate your work and despise your audience. Make your own art.
That's true.
And so I'm applying that same idea to the connection strategy. Because if I hate, creating copy and long form stuff, and I don't like it, I'm not going to do it. I'm gonna create a job that I hate, which is the opposite of why I became an entrepreneur, Larry.
Well, that's true too. And people say to me, "Well, it's working," and I'm like, "No, it's not." They say, "Yeah, it is working," and then I'll go back and say, "What do you want?" And they'll tell me, and then I'll say, "Are you sure it's working?" And the reason is that if you consider working not doing things you don't want to do, it's not working, because you're going to have to keep doing it. And they'll say, "Well, once I get rich and famous, I won't." And I'm like, "Yeah, well, that's fine. When you get there is not a real good recipe for entrepreneur success." A lot of people live that way, and then they get there and they look back and say, "What the hell did I do with my life?"
What the hell do I do with my life? That's a really powerful, dangerous question.
And for me, the connect strategy right now is so much fun because I've been messing around with social media and lead generation and prospecting and content marketing since it started, and having fun with it and frustrated as hell by it. And now I'm using everything I learned to do almost the exact opposite of what I see people doing.
Mhm.
And it gives me this feeling of excitement and power within the social media environment because I can see what everybody's doing because I've been doing it for so long and I'm not playing their game. I am playing my own game.
There's a concept I like a lot, the reverse azimuth. And I had an experience yesterday in a particular networking group, and I seemed to be the only inventor artist in the group.
Mm,
And I was in with like this couple looked really successful. You know, they had really nice house and the fine clothing, and we were evaluating the self awareness versus influence. And in every one of those, like I felt like a white belt, and I realized like I think I like based on the definitions in the group, 4 out of 5 in all of those. But like really in terms of like global outreach with something new, like 0.1. I think
yeah.
I'm just getting started. Still feel that way with my breath journey 2,200 days later. And I played the comparison game. And the gentleman that was there was like, you just need to find a billionaire who's done this.
Yeah, that's right.
And I was like, fuck that, man. Those guys usually are pretty miserable. And there's a certain type of poverty that I notice at the 100 million billion level. They don't want to lose that money. And I don't want to be rich. I want to be prosperous. So I need to find somebody who's prosperous. But nobody's done what I've done,
Yes.
And so it's a lonely journey sometimes. And what was really fun yesterday was like the advice they gave me encouraged me on the reverse azimuth, the reverse direction of how they're going is the way that I need to be going. And that's what I hear with your connection strategies.
Yeah. It's to do the opposite of what they're doing. And standing in that fire can be challenging because people are projecting onto me what they're doing. And I'm okay with that, but it has been very difficult. And then the challenge I have is not to get reactive and fight with people. And that doesn't serve me at all. So I'm becoming, as hyper aware of as possible. And you're talking about billionaires. I don't follow anybody who gives advice. So I call these people opinion projectors. So when I'm listening to them, I'm realizing they don't know what they're talking about because they're only talking about what they did, but they're not experts. And this is a pretty big bulk of that 100 million billion dollar crowd. And even some of the multi-billionaires, 50 billion, they really don't know what they're talking about because they're not very self-aware. So they only know their own experience and what they've succeeded with. But there's other billionaires like a Warren Buffett, Jeff Hoffman, Charlie Munger, Ray Dalio. Michael Singer's a billionaire. I don't know if he made a billion. He sold his company for $1 billion. Those people I listen to.
Yeah.
They know something.
And those people I listen to because they listen.
Yeah, that's
And,
right.
and every single one of those people is a white belt, although they've made more mistakes in every area than any other expert,
Yes.
and they're always learning. Especially Warren Buffett, Ray Dalio, and Mickey Singer.
Yeah. So it's not the form of the billionaire, it's the division between the what I call opinion projectors. In other words, it's my opinion, my belief, my conviction. You can be like me if you listen to me. And they believe that's true, and it's not. And then the liberation mechanics, what I call people who have figured themselves out and don't have that inner agenda of confusion they're projecting out into the world. They actually know how the world works because they have cycled back over and over and over again through principles.
That's one of the things that stands out the most with Ray Dalio, especially like his
Yeah,
book. It's interesting with his understanding of economics, you know, or like government agencies go to him to understand how the market works. Like
I
that's
know, it's hilarious. And this is true years ago, like when I was selling children's clothes and building up the distribution company when I was in my 20s, I knew more than people who ran divisions at Reebok, Tommy Hilfiger, DKNY, all of these different companies that I was eventually had hired me. in my distribution company because I was in the market. Now, I didn't know their whole business. I knew my niche in it better than they did. And,
Mhm.
most of them really weren't in Nautica, all these companies. Most
Uh,
of them did not want feedback from me. They wanted orders. And I had to learn, like, they don't care. I'm an extraction bot for them. All they want is more orders because that's all they care about. So don't bother explaining to them what's going on. Give them more orders or don't
yeah.
work with them. Don't work for now. My right now, I just wouldn't work for people like that. Period. But back then, I didn't know that yet.
There's two things that you bring up in that. So yesterday, I had a call yesterday, and I'll leave his name out of this to protect the innocent.
Yeah.
But it was very much an automated content LinkedIn. LinkedIn is the unlimited gold mine.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, that's not my experience. He's like, well, you should hire us for 6 weeks and we'll get your LinkedIn singing. I'm like, you haven't asked me any questions about how I like connecting with the market and what I've already tried. Like, I ran a
Yeah.
business that did that, you know? And, we're 32 minutes in. I'm like, hey, I think we're done here. Like, I'm not interested. I certainly don't want to be pitched to about why your method is far superior to not understanding why and what I'm doing. And so I get to the U.S. military right now is in a big predicament. So we have an unlimited budget, basically,
Yeah.
and we're using these $2 million shot Patriot missiles to defend against $2,000, 120-mile-an-hour drones, and lots of them. How many drones can you buy for 2 million? The Patriot missiles cannot contend with 1,000 drones
Yeah.
carrying 5-pound shape charges. That 5-pound shape charge can take out tanks and suck out the life from that. So the metaphor I'm using here is conventional warfare. What's tried and true, unlimited
Mm.
budget, right? And we're seeing that right now with Grant Cardone, Tony Robbins, Alex Hormozy. If you
Yeah.
have a $30,000 a month budget, you can force onto the market whatever the fuck you want.
They say that too. Russell Brunson said he learns from his mentor, who's basically a guy who sells crap on late night TV, Dan Kennedy. I don't want to be like Dan Kennedy or do anything related to what Dan Kennedy does. I don't like that approach at all, but I learned it. I learned it
So,
for sure. And
so
what Dan Kennedy taught Russell Brunson is whoever can spend the most on media wins. And I'm like, I don't want to run a media budget.
yes. So I'm assuming that if you're you the listener present with us right now, I'm just going to go out on a limb and say you don't have an unlimited marketing budget. So if that's not true, maybe listen to this anyway because there's an asymmetric warfare idea in here. So I'm a student of history and warfare, and so what was the American Revolutionary Army's competitive advantage? They didn't play by the fucking rules.
Yeah, that's
They
right.
shot at captains and lieutenants and colonels. They shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
Like that's not the rules of combat. But that's not what the American Revolution was about. It was about freedom and it was about dignity. And they did whatever they needed to do to keep this place sovereign. And it changed the world.
Mm.
And so they were smaller, lighter, faster, and they could adapt way more quickly than Reebok, Nike, the unlimited budget traditional warfare types, like goody gumdrops. Uh, we got to be scrappy and entrepreneurial, and
Yeah.
how do we penetrate the market with how each of us wants to change the world or our world?
And becoming a liberation mechanic just means doing it not just your own way, but doing it your own way based on principles that always work. So it's not just being in opposition to the persuasion marketing playbooks and all that, but it's doing it your own way. And some people are really good at those persuasion marketing playbooks and they love doing it. So my answer would be do that then. And I have no problem with that. I don't care. And that's called detachment, which means not attaching to a strategy, but just being aware asymmetrically what's going to work for me, period.
Yes, and I want to define the term asymmetric. It's not only just unconventional ways and means, but it's also a disproportionate amount of leverage.
Mm,
right? So I could do the 2,000 connections on LinkedIn and the content strategy, and I can meet a lot of people that way. So I have access to large numbers of people, but what I'm finding is very little conversion or influence.
Yeah.
Now I can do 5 or 6 calls with people who know, like, and trust me, and I've done work for in the past. They're going to open up their whole Rolodex to me. They have, because they trust me. They understand the vision. They understand that their vision, my vision together creates a shared desire. I have an incredible amount of influence. I don't need to access 2,000 people a month, like 8, you know?
Yeah, and I've done both strategies, and the LinkedIn strategy that you're talking about, I did back in probably 2009, 2008, 2009, 2010, and it worked. And I very quickly and I integrated it with networking, cold LinkedIn outreach, and emails, and it worked. And I still have that business. We're going to sell it for a few million bucks in a couple of years, and we're not going to sell it now, but it's passive income for me for 4 years, and it's a lifestyle business for my partner now that I brought in as a partner who's running it. And I started that business off what you were taught to do today, because I was early. That strategy on LinkedIn doesn't work anymore because no one wants. Everybody knows immediately, like you're number 500 in line that week of someone who hit him up. Hey, I got valuable content for you, or hey, I've got an idea for you. Hey, I love to meet people in my network. Well, you're trying to sell something. I know exactly what you're doing. But when I was doing it back then, it worked because it was newer.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that was advice yesterday. Hey, so and so, how do I filter through feeling like spam these people? I don't know them. I don't know what they're interested. I don't know what their current challenges or vision is. Oh, just send them valuable articles.
No.
That looks like spam from 10,000 miles away. Like, I can give.
Yeah. We were doing that back in the HubSpot days. So when HubSpot really took off. You remember? I don't know if I'm a little older than you, and I was probably more in some of this stuff than you were, but I remember when HubSpot came out of Boston, and then Joe Pelusi wrote a book called Content Inc. And I don't remember when that was, but all of a sudden we're making valuable content. I wrote a book, as valuable content, and it worked. And I was sending it to people through the mail. That was later. That was like 2019, to help close business, and it worked. It did exactly what it was supposed to do. And I started that as a series of articles with a professional writer who was on my team about 5 years before then, and it worked. Today, valuable content that cranks out from CPG chat and stuff is content spam to most people. Spam is defined as, I don't want that.
And I want to share something that I've learned from my spiritual teachings. And so, like, when I go through a challenging moment, a setback, what I would do is I would I would do my own work, and I journal, and then I would call somebody and have them share in my pain. Am I giving or taking in that scenario, Larry? I'm
Yeah.
taking. I'm
Yeah.
taking their peace. Now they're worried about me, right?
Yeah.
And so so the filter now is, am I giving value? Am I giving energy? Am I giving presence? Am I giving love to the person that I'm talking to? And
Mm.
if I'm not, I can't do it. I don't have the right to take from this person. And a model that I had for a long time, I have 6 years in medical sales. And so I have a deeply spiritual practice. It's intimate. And so it's powerful. It's magic. There's a profound technology under it, but initially it looks like magic. And the instant that there's a whisper of sales pressure, sales technique, they can tell me which page that's from, and that magic bubble popped, gone forever. Like, that's closed, done. Don't call me again.
Yeah. I can tell immediately what course they took when they reach out to me on Facebook or LinkedIn, or if somebody's talking to me on a phone. I know it's challenger selling, solution selling, it's spin selling, it's veto. I mean, I can smell it immediately, and I know often what LinkedIn or Facebook lead generation coach. They just did Alex Hormozy's program, and now they're reaching out to be my fake friend, or I can see it right away, but you know what I've noticed? A lot of people can't. And there's a woman right now on LinkedIn. Her name's Laura Acosta, and she's very smart and she's got an appealing personality and an appealing story. And she just got to the top of social media mountain and is doing all that stuff and selling one of these programs that's not going to work. Because and it's interesting to watch it because I'm looking at it, I'm like, this was that we were doing this in 2020, what she's selling, but she's selling it to a whole new group of people and they don't know any better because they're beginners. They entered the market 6 months ago, 12 months
Uh,
ago, and they don't know.
I'm not a fan of that. Uh, there's a portion of this like earning stripes and wisdom uh, through ignorance, I think. But I have a big problem with the folks that are preying on the ignorance of this new crop of entrepreneurs. COVID was powerful, and people got a taste of freedom, not having to go into work and like I'm not going back. So I need
Yeah.
to become an entrepreneur. What do I need to do? And you and I both got caught in this trap. Hundreds of thousands of dollars later, realizing, wow, that didn't work.
So what I see, I don't see her praying. I think the praying types are different because, they know. I think Alex Hormozy's preying on people because if you look at school and the persuasion marketing and the guy who won the school games is basically just using the NLP Robert, Cialdini stuff to kind of hypnotize people to buy from him. I think there's a preying going on there because they should know better. But someone like her, she's new. She's a beginner herself, and she hit something because she was authentic in how she did it. She just doesn't know what she's doing. So I don't see it as prey. I see it more as like she doesn't know what the hell she's doing. So people are going to copy it because she's popular. So it's
Let
like
me
it's like
let me
adult
amend
middle school.
let me amend what I shared there. So I
Yeah.
hired a fair amount of business coaches, be part of business mastermind groups, and I can't fault them. They had a process that worked. They were certain it would work for me,
Yeah.
and we were wrong. We were
Yeah.
wrong. It's subtle enough that selling gym memberships or language coaching is a lot different than the intersection of business ownership and increasing self-awareness
Yes.
and some of these Jedi tools.
That's
And it's
right.
never been done before, but they were
That's right.
convinced they could help me.
Uh-huh.
They weren't preying on me. They came from a good place. But like in the therapy, coaching, facilitation, even medical, what's the first rule? Do no harm.
That was Google's original um
Their
mission
thing,
statement was do no harm. Look at
their,
them now. Where did
their
this
thing
stuff
is
come from?
their
I
thing
would
is do no evil.
do no evil. Yeah, you know what? So I was listening to Eric Schmidt, who he's responsible for what happened to Google. I put it right on Eric Schmidt's shoulders. And he even said it. He said, success is the strategy that leads towards, 100 million eyeballs, 100 million viewers. Now you're there. And I'm like, no, you're not. And people are like, well, yeah, but look at all the money they made. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. I'm not going to argue with anybody. But if you go back to Russell Brunson's stuff, that's what he did is he took late night TV advertising, direct response marketing from magazines, persuasion stuff because he loved it since he was 5 years old. I don't know why, but he did. It's real. There's some reason he did. And he combined it with what he learned from Google intent-based advertising. And he sold a bunch of potato guns. And now all of a sudden he's invented something new, which he did. And then it got all screwed up, after that. That's very common. And I think that's what happens when the money floods in, is it inflates people's sense of themselves. And now we're
Oh,
talking about prime movers and Ayn Rand stuff. And I'm like, you're deluding yourself.
two things in that, Larry. Right. So every morning I teach the invincibility posture. Invincibility without humility is deadly.
Yeah.
I can't be wrong. I can't be heard. That's a lie, right? And then also these success people, maybe Elon Musk, when he went, what was it? I think it was PayPal into
Yeah.
SpaceX. If that had gone a different way, and his $50 million bet on space didn't work out, or his car company didn't work out, there's not anybody in the world that would listen to him.
That's right.
It's because it wasn't principles based. He's got a great principle of looking at the world through the prism of creating a colony on Mars, and he makes all his decisions through that. That's useful. But these, 140-hour work weeks, that's not going to work for most of us.
Well, this
You
is
know?
the Elon Musk problem is the humility's gone. And I see all of these people like this right now, Mark Andreessen, Elon Musk, Brian Chesky the Airbnb founder. He did a whole thing on founder mode. And I'm like, I love this. And then I looked it up and they're talking about you have to be good at tech and go to like a special, Ivy League school or what. I'm like, oh my God, what is wrong with you people? There's no humility at all. But the concept of founder mode makes total sense to me. I'm a founder mode guy. I've been doing founder mode my entire life. I won't get into the details of it. Elon Musk, okay, Mark Andreessen, his technology understanding is technology is like water, follow the technology. I'm like, no kidding. I've been studying that kind of stuff my whole life. He's right. That's why it worked. Elon Musk, same thing. It's like nobody gets me. My vision's too big for them. He's right. He was right.
Mhm.
But the inflation of the ego from societal recognition and success is what leads to these ridiculous distractions.
That's how Rome and Greece fell.
Oh, okay. You got to go there with that because people are afraid the United States is going to collapse, like for
The so
arrogance, out of
within,
arrogance. So, what do you think? I
the
don't think
so
it
with,
will.
the so within, so without.
Mm,
Resting on past success, and stopping innovating, acting out of integrity. Um, my teacher calls that like the fatted duck being kicked off the cliff. There's no way for the light to get in. There's no humility. There's no like,
yes.
all right, what's
Yeah.
the lesson in this? Because I fucking made it.
Yeah. Yeah. They're a bunch of fat ducks. That's how I see them too, waddling around. And I call them opinion projectors. But underneath, there's liberation mechanic principles there. And I think what people aren't seeing is what's next. And if I look at the concept I've got, rise of the liberation mechanics based on my own experience, but not me, it's about what I see around me everywhere I look, is people want to opt out of this craziness. They're just not finding a good pathway to do it. And I think we're leading into that pathway and we're leading in rear guard mode, like more like the British Navy than the American military. Leader eats last, in other words.
I'm not a fan of that anymore. I think we get to eat together.
Oh, yes, yeah, you're right. You know what? So I just learned that. Yeah, that's great. We eat together. That's the whole point. Not the leader eats last. Everybody eats together. That's better.
The savior martyr complex doesn't work long term. I found it's not sustainable.
Ah,
And I want to share my favorite pronoun with the group: us. Us. How can I make decisions for us? And if I can do that, there's a lot more people that I can serve because value follows, or revenue follows value added to the marketplace. Could be in terms of time, a bunch of different metrics.
you said something really interesting that I will apply to Starbucks. So Starbucks is having problems right now. Howard Schultz, I'm sure, is super frustrated because his original concept was the third place based on him being in Italy and loving going to Italian coffee shops. I spent a lot of time in France and some in Italy, and I get it. I have coffee shops all over the place near where I live that are awesome. And I love one in Winnetka called Tala. And I drive there all the time, and it's a third place for me, and they know me. I walked in, and the Americano was done. The guy
Mm-hmm.
saw me coming, and he had it done. And I'm like, wow, that's incredible. Starbucks sucks. And what would have happened if Howard Schultz had not taken money? Starbucks would be solid right now because he would have kept making it cool in a cool third place like it was when they started. The money
Mm-hmm.
ruined it. And the same with Google. If Larry and Sergey had not bought their submarines and islands in the South Pacific and they'd found a way to keep Google going, it would be incredible right now instead of sucking.
Uh, Mid.